Have you ever wondered how a single disease could wipe out nearly 60% of an entire continent's population? Imagine a catastrophe of such magnitude that it changes the course of history forever. This was the grim reality of the Black Death, a plague that swept across Europe in the mid-14th century. Let's take a step back. The Black Death, also known as the bubonic plague, was a deadly disease believed to have originated in the dry plains of Central Asia. From there, it traveled along the Silk Road, hitching rides on merchant ships and caravans, eventually making its unwelcome arrival in Europe in the year 1347. Once it arrived, it spread like wildfire. In less than 5 years, the Black Death had left an indelible mark on the continent. Towns and cities were decimated, families torn apart, and societies thrown into chaos. The speed at which it spread and the extent of its deadly grip was unlike anything witnessed before. Estimates suggest that between 1347 and 1351, around 25 million people perished due to the Black Death. That's nearly 60% of Europe's population at the time. A staggering number, isn't it? This catastrophic event led to one of the most significant population declines in human history. But it wasn't just the sheer numbers that made the Black Death such a historic event. It was the nature of the disease itself. The plague was indiscriminate, affecting all strata of society, from the poorest peasants to the wealthiest nobles. It was a silent, invisible enemy that struck without warning and left devastation in its wake. The aftermath of the Black Death was a Europe dramatically transformed. The old order was shattered, and a new one was slowly forged in the crucible of plague and death. But we'll delve deeper into that in the next scenes. But what makes the Black Death stand out in the annals of history? And what were the factors that contributed to such a devastating impact? We'll explore these questions and more as we unravel the mysteries of this global catastrophe. Stay tuned. What if I told you that the cause of this mass extermination was a bacterium carried by fleas? Quite shocking, isn't it? But it's true. The Black Death, one of the most devastating pandemics in human history, was caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis. This bacterium, as innocent as it may seem, was responsible for the death of an estimated 75 to 200 million people across Europe between the years 1347 and 1351. Now you might be wondering, how did a bacterium cause such a catastrophe? Well, the answer lies in the way it was transmitted. This bacterium didn't just hop from one person to another. Instead, it had a little help from our common pests, the fleas. These fleas, carried by rats, were the main culprits in transmitting this bacterium to humans. Picture this: a flea bites an infected rat, ingesting the bacterium. Then the flea jumps onto a human and bites them. In doing so, it injects the bacterium into the human's bloodstream. Once inside the body, the bacterium multiplies and spreads, causing various symptoms such as fever, chills, weakness, and swollen lymph nodes, which eventually lead to death. But it wasn't just the human fleas. The bacterium could also be transmitted through human-to-human contact. This means that if an infected person coughed or sneezed near a healthy person, the bacterium could spread, causing a new infection. This made the Black Death not just a disease of the poor or the unclean, but a disease that could affect anyone, regardless of their social status or wealth. The Black Death was a testament to how something as small as a bacterium could cause such a massive impact. It changed the course of history, causing a significant population decline and altering societal structures in ways that are still evident today. So, the next time you see a flea, remember, it's not just a tiny pest. It's a creature that once carried a bacterium that brought humanity to its knees. A tiny bacterium, an unassuming flea, and the world was never the same again. Can you imagine what it must have been like to live in a society where every second person you knew was succumbing to an unknown disease? Picture this: Europe, mid-14th century. The Black Death, a deadly plague, is sweeping across the continent at a speed and scale previously unimaginable. Communities were entrenched in fear and confusion. The plague was indiscriminate, claiming the lives of both the young and old, the rich and poor, the noble and the commoner. There was no known cure and no apparent way to avoid it. The sheer unpredictability of the disease stoked the flames of panic. Families were torn apart, friendships severed, and societies turned upside down. In the midst of this chaos, desperation took hold. The plague was so swift and so deadly that there wasn't enough time for proper burials. Mass graves or plague pits became a grim necessity. With no understanding of how the disease spread, people began to blame the other. Outsiders, beggars, and particularly Jews were scapegoated and persecuted. Religious faith was shaken to its core. Some saw the plague as divine punishment for humanity's sins. Others lost faith entirely, unable to reconcile the idea of a merciful God with the suffering they witnessed. This led to a rise in heretical movements and a decline in the power of the church. Economically, the Black Death was a catastrophe. With so many dead, labor was scarce, fields lay fallow, livestock roamed untended, and trade routes were abandoned. But in the long run, this scarcity of laborers led to improved wages and living conditions for the survivors, and a shift from feudalism to a more modern economic system. In the wake of the Black Death, society was forever changed. Fear and desperation had gripped the people, leading to profound shifts in religion, economics, and the very fabric of society. The plague brought out the best and the worst in humanity, a testament to our ability to adapt and survive in the face of overwhelming adversity. The shadow of death loomed large, and society was on the brink of collapse. But as we'll see in our next scene, this period of crisis also served as a catalyst for change and transformation. But here's the mystery. How did the world recover from such a devastating blow? In the aftermath of the Black Death, the world we knew was irrevocably changed. Let's take a journey through time and explore how society, the economy, and religion transformed in the wake of this catastrophic event. Imagine a world where the population has been decimated. The survivors, left in a landscape scarred by death, had to adapt or perish. This was a time when society had to reinvent itself. With labor in short supply, the feudal system, with its lords and serfs, began to crumble. It was a time of upheaval, yes, but also a time of opportunity. Workers were in demand and they knew it. They demanded higher wages, better conditions. It was a turning point, a shift towards what we might recognize today as workers' rights. The economy, too, was transformed. With fewer people to buy goods and services, prices plummeted. Land became cheaper and more available. This led to a redistribution of wealth and power, creating a burgeoning middle class. The world of commerce was born out of the ashes of the Black Death. But what about religion? The church, once the beacon of hope and solace, was now viewed with suspicion. People questioned why a benevolent God would allow such a catastrophe. This led to a rise in secularism, challenging the dominance of the church and paving the way for the Renaissance and the Enlightenment. These changes were not immediate. They were the slow, laborious progress of a world healing from a great wound. But heal it did. The world, like a phoenix, rose from the ashes of the Black Death, forever changed, but still enduring. So, to answer our mystery, the world recovered not in spite of the Black Death, but because of it. The plague forced society to adapt, to evolve, to transform. It was a catalyst for change, a change that would shape the world for centuries to come. The Black Death, a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions, yet it forged a path for a new world order. What can we, from our vantage point in the 21st century, learn from this grim chapter of history? The Black Death, an infamous plague that swept across Europe in the 14th century, may feel like a distant, almost mythical event. Yet, it holds critical lessons for us today. It's a testament to the power of infectious diseases and the devastation they can wreak when they go unchecked. The parallels between the Black Death and current global health crises are striking. Just as the Black Death spread rapidly along trade routes, modern diseases can traverse the globe in mere hours, courtesy of our interconnected world. The Black Death decimated entire communities, and today we see the same potential for destruction in diseases like Ebola or COVID-19. But it's not all doom and gloom. The Black Death also illustrates the resilience of humanity. Despite the immense loss of life, societies rebuilt. They adapted. They found ways to survive. Today, we are doing the same. In the face of global pandemics, we are innovating, learning, and growing stronger. This historical event also underscores the importance of scientific understanding. Back in the 14th century, people didn't understand the concept of germs. They had no idea how the disease was spreading or how to effectively combat it. Today, we have the knowledge and tools to understand and fight infectious diseases, but we must always remember the importance of this knowledge and continue to support and value scientific research. Finally, the Black Death reminds us of the power of community. During the plague, communities were torn apart, but they also came together in remarkable ways. Today, in the face of crisis, it's our collective action and shared responsibility that make a difference. The Black Death serves as a stark reminder that humanity's survival depends on our ability to understand, adapt, and overcome. And it's a lesson we must carry with us as we navigate the challenges of our own time.